All right, good morning, guys. Welcome to January 5th. We're about an hour into the market open, and we can see that we had a little bit of a bounce this morning with some data points coming in this morning, economic data points. And also, we were contesting with that 4,700 range, 47 to 47.15 was a critical range. And we did break down below that yesterday. But today we've picked right back up, and if we look at the weekly, so far the day is still I still have many hours in the trading day, but so far we are holding the 5-week moving average. So the trend is still intact. The uptrend here is still intact until this breaks down. So that's what we would watch for on the SPX. So that, keep a close eye on that. You can see there was a bit of a sell-off in the US dollar this morning, which coincides with the market going up. And it kind of picked up so far in that demand zone, in the critical zone, in the 1.322 to 1.332 range for us. And it remains to be seen if it picks up from this trend line. There might be some sellers sitting back here. So if the market decides to sell off further, we could see this rally back up. But if the market decides to go further up, then this might have a sell-off further. So for the USD CAD folks out there, it's a critical point and also a critical point for the markets here this morning. Now we look at, let's take a look at QQQ on the weekly. QQQ on the weekly, let the moving averages load up. But we can see that we are still below the moving average here, the 5-week, which is at 402.45. We are not too far away from it at 399. We started the day somewhere around 395 and got bought up with the rest of the market. But we are still below it. Unlike in SPX where we are right above it. So still a little bit weaker on the QQQ, and a weekly close below 5-week could mean the probability of us selling down to the trend line is higher. Obviously the markets can go any which way, but this 5-week being above the close here would start acting as resistance. More so like support, which has been supporting this up move since November. So far it's been supporting, but if we do get a close below it, then it'll start acting as resistance, which means we would need more buyers to get up back in that uptrend. Okay, so that's what QQQ looks like. If we take a look at QQQ on the monthly, we can see that we are kind of falling out from this this monthly box area, and we are moving towards the bottom of value on the monthly. And if we look at the yearly value area, it is really trying to hold on to that top of yearly. A close below the top of yearly would imply that we would start kind of making our way down into, I guess the path of least resistance would be down for QQQ. But so far, and based on the end of the day, we could potentially even hold the 400.3. We're only $1 away from that. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other sectors here. So we looked at QQQ. Let's take a look at XLK. XLK is much further from its 5-week moving average, so a lot weaker here, but it is in this demand zone here where there was some consolidation before. So this would be a key area of interest to see if it holds. If it doesn't, then we could get a sell-off to at least the top of the trend line here before a bounce back up, or a decision if the sellers take over, then a breakdown into this channel here. So that is XLK for us. Let's take a look at this XLK technology. XLP, let's take a look at consumer staples. Still, we are waiting for that break of the 75-ish mark, but we can see with the rest of the market, we did have a pickup. Where are we? Jan 5th. A much slower mover here, but we're kind of holding in this sort of an uptrend here in XLP, but nothing of interest until we do see that we are able to take into account or encounter all this the selling pressure that we might see here. The problem here is if we do enter a position here with all this selling that could come in at any time, the probability of the trade going against this is more. We'd rather wait for it to be at a point where the resistance, the upward resistance, is less, which would be somewhere after this point, where we start to see less and less sellers sitting in that region. So that is XLP. SMH, that was another area of weakness, and still it has picked up a little bit, but it has not been able to take back the 5-week moving average, and looks like we might get a close below that unless we do have a rally day. We could potentially close at the 169 mark, which would be more bullish for semiconductors here, but a close below could mean that we sell down further on SMH. And we are still above the yearly value here, but we are below the 5-week moving average. So we could even just see a retest of the 160 and before a pick back up based on the close today. But we will review this back on the weekend based on the weekly closes. IWM, small caps. So IWM is kind of in this channel along with the mid caps. We are still kind of looking at the 5-week over here. We are today a little bit below that, 194. Let's see how the day started. So Jan 5th. So we did start about 2 points below, and we've picked up into it, and we're running into that resistance now. The 5-week moving average is acting as overhead resistance. So we need more buyers in IWM to try to pick it up and get a closure above that 5-week, which is sitting at 195.86. Not very far, so it could happen, but yeah, something we're gonna closely watch today. The end of week closes. Okay, MDY, I believe, is a very similar chart for the mid caps here. Yeah, it looks very similar than the IWM. And XBI was a point of interest for us. It is going through a consolidation. There was a pickup in volume yesterday, but no breakout yet out of this consolidation zone. The 5-week is catching up to it, so this could be a point of a cheat entry if you are a believer that XBI may go on further from here. But I myself would like to see it above the yearly value here at 89 in order to start considering a closure above this, in order to start considering even the first cheat entry into this ETF. Okay, IYT transports. All right, for IYT, we do have it going below the 5-week and decisively below. So looks like so far we are going to get a closure below the 5-week. So IYT looking a little bit weaker, but similar type of chart than IWM and MDY, small caps and mid caps. But transport's looking a bit weaker comparative to the 5-week moving average. XLI, industrials, much closer and much more like the IWM or the MDY. So we'll watch the weekly closes on this and see how it does. XLU looking more constructive. You can see the moving averages curving up, which is a good sign. We initially had interest in this, but with the overhead resistances, we were not so interested. But seems like it has kind of taken and would try to do a close above this 200-day, and with the moving averages curling underneath it, it's not a bad point of entry. If we look at XLU, it does have this moving average here on the weekly that it is still encountering, so some overhead resistance still, but it does look like a strong close on the weekly for XLU if it's able to hold where it's at, and especially get above this 50-week moving average. If we take a look at on the daily, it looks, that this looks pretty decent here. We have a closure above, and this would be the 200-day. Although the one thing I don't like about this is the order of the moving averages is inversed, where the 200-day is above and these are the other moving averages are below. But that's what you would get if you are getting at this very, very start of a new uptrend. So until this uptrend matures, these moving averages will kind of be like this, but you can see that they're trying to cross over back over, which would provide strength to the trend and the rally here in XLU. So something to keep a close watch on. XLU is looking interesting, especially based on today's close. Okay, and we're going to XLV. XLV still looking the strongest sector so far to start the year, at least based on my lists. That is, if we get a daily closure above this VPOC or a weekly close at these levels, that is still looking bullish, guys, on the XLV. XME. So yeah, just a check back of the 5-week, and so far seems to be holding here. So not a bad look for XME either. If we were to look at the values on the daily, you can see that we are encountering some overhead resistance here at the 59 mark. So a close above 59 would be good for XME. I'm gonna put an alert there at 59, just over 59 for XME. And we have XLF and ITB. XLF looking interesting on the monthly, but we do have this overhead VPOC here at 38 that we're waiting for a takeout to see how it responds to that. ITB was a lot weaker, I remember, but look at that. It's picked up from this demand area today. It did a pickup, but it is encountering these moving averages curling up from overhead. So a closure above these moving averages would be bullish for the home builders. We would keep a close watch on that and report back to you on the weekend video on how we get a closure today for ITB. And finally for XLY, consumer discretionary, we had a kind of wick here, the seller's wick here, but we have picked up right into it today. So, but we are still in a downtrend on the XLY. With a weekly closure below the 5-week and a VPOC takeout, I would wait to see how this develops. And we do have the monthly value area which it picked up from, but it would need some more time because there's a lot of overhead resistance here on the XLY. So I would give it some more time for consumer discretionary stocks. Okay, that's it for today, guys. We'll catch you back on the weekend.